The massive space station called Convergence floated in the darkness between stars. It was the size of a small moon, with gleaming metal walls and thousands of lights that sparkled like jewels. Ships from hundreds of different worlds docked at its many ports every day. Today was special. The Galactic Council was meeting to discuss something that had never happened before. Humans wanted to join. Inside the great meeting hall, beings from across the galaxy sat in their assigned seats. The hall was enormous, with a ceiling so high, it disappeared into shadows. Floating platforms held delegates from different worlds. Some breathed air, others needed special gas mixtures. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. But they all had one thing in common today. They thought the humans were making a big mistake. Ambassador Zethkar stood on his platform near the center of the hall. He was impressive to look at. His body was covered in black scales that reflected the light like polished stone. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that rippled under his natural armor. His yellow eyes could see in complete darkness, and his claws were sharp enough to cut through steel. His people, the hegemony, had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. Zethkar looked down at the human delegation with something close to amusement. They sat in a small section near the back of the hall. There were only 5 of them. 5 tiny beings from a tiny world that most aliens had never heard of until recently. "This is ridiculous," muttered Ambassador Krell from the insect-like hive worlds. His translator device made his clicking sounds into words the others could understand. They have barely left their own star system. What could they possibly offer? "The Council. Entertainment, perhaps," laughed Zethkar. His voice was deep and carried easily across the hall. Several other delegates chuckled along with him. The human leader stood up. Her name was Sarah Chen, though most of the aliens had not bothered to learn it. She was average height for a human, which made her tiny compared to most of the other delegates. Her hair was brown with some gray in it. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations or signs of rank. To the aliens, she looked like nothing special at all. "The chair recognizes the hegemony delegation," announced the council speaker, a floating crystal being whose voice echoed strangely in the great hall. Zethkar stepped forward on his platform. When he spoke, his words filled the entire space. "Honored delegates, we gather today to discuss a request that borders on comedy. The humans of Earth wish to join our ancient and respected council." More laughter rippled through the hall. Zethkar waited for it to die down before continuing. "Let us examine the facts. Humans have existed for less than 200,000 years. My own people have maintained galactic civilization for over 2 million. Humans have traveled to perhaps a dozen worlds. We have colonies on thousands. Humans fight with crude weapons and primitive ships. We command fleets that could turn their entire world to glass." Sarah Chen sat quietly in her chair, listening. Her face showed no emotion. The other humans with her looked nervous, but she remained calm. "But perhaps," Zethkar continued, "we should focus on their physical limitations. Humans live for less than a century. We live for over 1,000 years. They break bones from simple falls. Our bones are stronger than most metals. They need air to breathe, water to drink, and die from small changes in temperature. They are weak, fragile, and short-lived." The laughter was louder now. Some delegates were openly pointing at the human section. Sarah Chen still did not react. "Their own history shows their nature," Zethkar said, his voice growing stronger. "They spend more time fighting each other than exploring the stars. They poison their own world and then wonder why their population is sick. They create weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, and then argue about who should control them. These are not the actions of a species ready for galactic responsibility." Ambassador Chen stood up. She raised her hand and waited patiently. "Oh, this should be good," whispered someone from the reptilian delegation. The council speaker's crystal form pulsed with light. "The chair recognizes the human delegation." Sarah walked to the center of the hall. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. She looked small and alone in the vast space, surrounded by hundreds of alien beings who towered over her. "Honored delegates," she began. Her voice was clear and steady. Ambassador Zethkar makes valid points about my people. We are young. We are physically limited compared to many of you. We have made mistakes in our short history. Several aliens nodded, as if she was finally being reasonable. However, Sarah continued, I believe the ambassador and this council are making an error in judgment. The murmuring started again. Zethkar's eyes narrowed. You see our physical limitations and assume weakness. You see our short lives and assume we cannot think beyond the moment. You see our conflicts and assume we cannot cooperate. These assumptions may cost you dearly. Is that a threat? Demanded Zethkar. His voice carried a dangerous edge. Sarah looked directly at him. It is a statement of fact. Humans are dangerous when underestimated. The hall erupted in surprised chatter. The idea that this small, soft-looking being could threaten anyone was absurd to most of the delegates. Zethkar threw back his head and laughed. It was a sound like rocks grinding together. Dangerous? You? Your entire species could not defeat a single battle group from my fleet. Perhaps, Sarah said quietly. But I wonder if you would say the same after facing one human in personal combat. The hall went silent. Even the translation devices seemed to pause. Zethkar stared at her. What did you say? I invoke the right of demonstration, Sarah announced clearly. I challenge you to single combat to prove the worth of my species. The silence stretched for long seconds. The right of demonstration was ancient law, older than most of the civilizations in the hall. It had not been used for thousands of years. Most species considered it primitive and barbaric, but it was still legal. Zethkar's scales seemed to darken. His claws extended slightly. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious, Sarah replied. Hand-to-hand combat. No weapons, no assistance. Winner takes all. The stakes? Asked the council speaker. If I win, humanity gains full council membership. Immediately. If I lose, we withdraw our application for 100 years and never return. Zethkar studied the small human woman. She stood barely to his chest. Her arms were thin compared to his massive limbs. She had no natural armor, no claws, no visible weapons. Fighting her would be like stepping on an insect. I accept, he said. The hall exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted questions and objections. Translation devices overloaded trying to keep up with dozens of languages being spoken at once. Through it all, Sarah Chen stood quietly in the center of the hall, watching Zethkar with steady eyes. She had just committed herself and her entire species to a fight that everyone believed she could not possibly win. News of the challenge spread through the space station faster than light through a jump gate. Within an hour, every alien on Convergence knew about the impossible fight. A human woman, barely 5.5 feet tall, had challenged one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy to single combat. Sarah Chen sat in her small quarters looking out at the stars through a round window. Her hands were steady as she drank tea from a simple cup. She had changed from her diplomatic uniform into plain gray clothes. To anyone watching, she looked like she was preparing for a quiet evening, not a fight to the death. Down the hall, the other human delegates were not so calm. Sarah, this is insane, said Dr. Martinez, the team's science advisor. He paced back and forth in the common area of their quarters. Zethkar is nearly twice your size. His people evolved on a world with gravity 3 times stronger than Earth. He has natural armor plating and claws that can cut through steel. I know, Sarah replied calmly. His reaction speed is faster than any human's, continued Dr. Martinez. His bones are denser than ours. His muscles are designed for a high-gravity environment. He has advantages in every possible category. I know, Sarah said again. Then why, demanded Captain Thompson, their military liaison. Why throw away everything we've worked for? Why sacrifice humanity's future for a fight you cannot win? Sarah looked at him with patient eyes. Who says I cannot win? The question hung in the air. The other humans stared at her. Finally, Dr. Martinez spoke. Sarah, I've read your file. I know you were Special Forces. I know you've seen combat. But this is different. This isn't a human opponent. This is an alien warrior whose people have been fighting wars since before humans discovered fire. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. The space station's lights reflected off her face. Tell me, Doctor, what do you know about wolves? Doctor, Martinez blinked. Wolves? What do wolves have to do with anything? Wolves are smaller than bears, Sarah continued. They're not as strong as lions. They don't have the armor of a rhinoceros or the claws of a tiger. But wolves hunt all of those animals successfully. Do you know why? Because they hunt in packs, said Captain Thompson. Sometimes, Sarah agreed. But sometimes a single wolf brings down prey much larger than itself. Do you know how? The room was quiet. Intelligence, Sarah said. Patience, understanding the enemy's weaknesses, using every advantage available no matter how small, and most importantly, never underestimating yourself or overestimating your opponent. She turned back to face them. Zethkar sees a small, weak human female. He sees easy prey. That is his first mistake. And what advantages do you have? Asked Dr. Martinez. Sarah smiled for the first time since the challenge. More than he realizes. Meanwhile, in the hegemony quarters on the other side of the station, Zethkar was receiving congratulations from his staff. His chambers were larger than the entire human section, with high ceilings and furniture built for beings his size. The betting pools have you at 10,000 to 1 odds, reported his aide, a younger member of his species named Vorth. Some are taking bets as high as 50,000 to 1. Zethkar examined his claws in the light. Each one was sharp enough to puncture military armor. What information do we have about the human? Her name is Sarah Chen. She's 43 years old, which is middle-aged for humans. She served in their military for 12 years before becoming a diplomat. She has no special genetic modifications on record, no enhanced strength or speed treatments, no combat drugs. She appears to be completely ordinary for her species. Weapons training? Standard military issue, small arms, basic hand-to-hand combat. Nothing that would help against one of us. Zethkar nodded. This would be even easier than he thought. What about the combat conditions? Standard arena rules. No weapons, no outside assistance, no time limits. The fight continues until one participant surrenders or cannot continue. Gravity setting? Forth hesitated. That's interesting. She requested that the fight take place under our homeworld conditions. Full 3.7 gravity. Zethkar's head snapped up. She what? She specifically asked for high gravity. Her exact words were, I want to fight under conditions that give Ambassador Zethkar every possible advantage. Zethkar stared at his aide. Fighting under high gravity would be torture for a human. Their weak bones would feel like they weighed 3 times their normal amount. Their muscles would strain just to move. Most humans couldn't even walk normally under those conditions. Is she trying to commit suicide? He wondered aloud. It's possible, Forth said. Perhaps she realizes she cannot win and wants to die with honor rather than live with shame. Or perhaps, said a new voice from the doorway, she knows something you do not. Both hegemony warriors turned. Ambassador Krell from the hive world stood in the entrance. His insect-like body clicked as he moved into the room. Krell, Zethkar acknowledged. What brings you here? Curiosity, the insect being replied. I have been researching humans since the challenge was announced. They are unusual. How so? Krell's compound eyes glittered. Their homeworld is a death trap. Extreme weather that changes without warning. Massive predators. Poisonous plants and animals. Natural disasters that can destroy entire continents. Yet humans not only survived, they conquered their entire planet. Many species have overcome hostile environments, Zethkar pointed out. Yes, but most do it through evolution. They develop natural armor or poison resistance or better senses, or humans did it differently. They used tools. They adapted their behavior. They learned to think their way out of problems that other species solve through biology. Zethkar's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that underestimating humans may be unwise. Their military history is instructive. They have a saying, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." Fourth looked confused. What is a dog? A small predator they domesticated, Krell explained. The point is that humans value determination over strength. They win through stubborn refusal to give up, not through superior firepower. Zethkar stood to his full height. His massive frame cast a shadow over the insect ambassador. Are you suggesting I might lose to this human? Krell's clicking intensified. I am suggesting that humans are dangerous when cornered, and this Sarah Chen has just cornered herself quite thoroughly. After Krell left, Zethkar stood alone in his chambers. Outside his window, he could see the arena being prepared. Massive gravity generators were being calibrated. Medical teams were standing by. Camera drones from news services across the galaxy were positioning themselves for the best view. In a few hours, he would step into that arena with a human female who weighed less than his arm. It should be the easiest fight of his life. So why did he feel a small knot of worry in his stomach? He pushed the feeling aside. Fear was for prey animals. Tomorrow, he would show the galaxy exactly where humans belonged in the galactic order. The medical bay on Convergence Station was unlike anything on Earth. Alien doctors from dozens of different species worked with equipment that could scan down to the molecular level. Every being who fought in the arena had to pass a complete physical examination. It was required by galactic law. Sarah Chen lay on the scanning table, which had adjusted itself to fit her human proportions. Above her, a complex array of sensors moved back and forth, mapping every part of her body. Lead physician was a tall, thin being called Dr. Helix. His people resembled walking trees, with bark-like skin and branches for arms. Please remain still, Dr. Helix said through his translator. The deep tissue scan is beginning. Sarah closed her eyes and relaxed. Around the medical bay, alien technicians monitored screens filled with data about her body. What they saw puzzled them. Doctor, called one of the technicians, I'm getting unusual readings from the bone density scan. Dr. Helix moved to examine the screen. His branch-like fingers traced patterns in the air as he studied the data. Run it again. The human bone structure cannot be this dense. The scan ran a second time. The results were the same. Her bones are nearly 30% denser than normal human baseline, reported the technician. That's impossible. Humans have light hollow bones to help them move in their low-gravity environment. Not hollow, corrected another technician from across the room. But you're right about the density. These readings suggest her bones are almost as strong as hegemony bone structure. Dr. Helix moved to another screen. What about muscle composition? Also unusual, came the reply. Fast-twitch muscle fiber density is off the charts. Her muscle efficiency rating is higher than some warrior species. And look at this cardiovascular data. Dr. Helix studied the heart rate and blood flow patterns. Sarah's heart was beating slowly and steadily, even though she knew she was about to fight for her life. Her blood pressure was perfect. Her oxygen levels were optimal. She's too calm, muttered the doctor. Humans are supposed to show stress responses before combat. Increased heart rate, elevated hormone levels, fight-or-flight responses. This one shows none of that. Maybe she's in shock, suggested a technician. No, Dr. Helix said slowly. This is the cardiovascular pattern of someone who has been in combat many times before. Someone whose body has adapted to extreme stress. More data flowed across the screens. Sarah's reflexes tested at the very top of human ranges. Her coordination scores were perfect. Her balance and spatial awareness were exceptional even by galactic standards. Doctor, called another technician, I'm seeing something strange in her cellular structure. Dr. Helix hurried over. What kind of strange? Scarring. Lots of it. But not external scars. Internal ones. Look at her muscle tissue under high magnification. The screen showed Sarah's muscle fibers in incredible detail. Throughout the tissue were tiny marks where the muscles had been torn and regrown stronger. Her bones showed similar patterns. microfractures that had healed and made the bone denser. This pattern, Dr. Helix said quietly, is consistent with extreme gravity training. Her body has been repeatedly stressed and allowed to rebuild itself stronger. How extreme? Asked the technician. Dr. Helix checked the readings again. Based on these patterns, I would estimate she has trained under gravity conditions ranging from 2 to 4 times Earth normal, for extended periods, possibly years. The medical bay fell silent except for the humming of machinery. Every alien in the room stared at the screens showing Sarah's body composition. There's more, said another technician. Look at her neural activity patterns. The brain scan showed Sarah's mental state. Instead of the chaotic patterns of fear or excitement, her brain waves were steady and controlled. The patterns suggested deep concentration and tactical planning. She's running combat scenarios in her head, Dr. Helix realized. Even now, lying here, she's preparing for the fight. 20 minutes later, the scans were complete. Dr. Helix approached the table where Sarah still lay with her eyes closed. You may sit up now, he said. Sarah opened her eyes and smoothly sat up. There was no awkwardness, no adjustment period. She moved like someone completely comfortable in her own body. Any questions about the results? She asked. Dr. Helix studied her face. Where did you train? I'm sorry? Your body shows signs of extreme gravity conditioning. Long-term, intensive training under high gravity conditions. Where did you do this training? Sarah smiled slightly. Military classified, I'm afraid. But such training would be incredibly dangerous for humans. The risk of permanent injury or death would be enormous. Yes, Sarah agreed. It would be. She slipped off the table and began putting her clothes back on. Will I be cleared for combat? Dr. Helix looked at his screens one more time. By all medical standards, Sarah Chen was in perfect health. Better than perfect, actually. She was in the kind of condition that most species achieved only through genetic modification or advanced technology. You are cleared, he said reluctantly. Thank you, doctor. As Sarah walked toward the door, Dr. Helix called after her. Ambassador Chen? She turned back. My people have a saying, the tree-like being said. The deepest roots grow in the harshest soil. I think I am beginning to understand what kind of soil produced humanity. Sarah nodded respectfully and left. The medical bay. Word of the medical results spread quickly through the station's alien community. In bars and meeting rooms, delegates who had been laughing about the fight began asking questions. In the hegemony quarters, Zethkar listened to Forth's report with growing confusion. Gravity training? He repeated. But why would humans develop such training? Their homeworld is low gravity. They have no need for such conditioning. Unless, Vorth said slowly, they were preparing for something. Preparing for what? War. Against high-gravity species. The two warriors stared at each other. The implications were disturbing. If humans had developed extensive high-gravity combat training, it suggested they had been planning for conflicts with species like the hegemony for some time. How many humans have this training? Zethkar asked. Unknown. But if they have been, preparing their military personnel for high-gravity combat. Zethkar's claws extended slightly. He had been thinking of this fight as a simple demonstration of superior evolution. Now it was beginning to feel like something else entirely, like a test. Across the station in her quarters, Sarah Chen sat in meditation pose on the floor. Around her, gravity generators hummed as they gradually increased the gravitational field in her room. She had started at Earth normal and was slowly working up to hegemony levels. Her breathing remained steady as the gravity reached twice Earth normal. Her heart rate stayed calm as it climbed to 3 times normal. By the time it reached 3.7 times Earth gravity, the setting for tomorrow's fight, she was moving through slow, controlled combat forms. To any observer, she looked like she was dancing. Every movement was precise and flowing. Her balance never wavered, even under crushing gravitational force that would have flattened most humans. She had not lied to Dr. Helix. Her training was military classified. What she hadn't mentioned was that the training had been designed specifically for this moment, for the day when humanity would need to prove itself worthy of respect among the stars. The fight tomorrow would not be about strength or size or natural advantages. It would be about preparation, determination, and the refusal to be underestimated. It would be about showing the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when they put their minds to it. The arena on Convergence Station could hold 50,000 spectators. Today, every seat was full. Beings from across the galaxy had come to witness what many were calling the most one-sided fight in galactic history. The arena floor was a perfect circle, 200 feet across, made of a material harder than diamond but with enough grip for good footing. Above the arena, massive gravity generators hummed with power. Red warning lights flashed as the gravitational field increased from standard station gravity to hegemony homeworld levels. In the observation decks, several alien species required mechanical assistance just to remain conscious under the crushing force. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the arena through the human entrance. The crowd noise was deafening, a mixture of cheers, laughter, and betting calls in dozens of languages. She wore simple gray clothes that allowed for easy movement. Her feet were bare. She carried no weapons, no protective gear, nothing but her own body. The gravity hit her like a physical weight. Under 3.7 times Earth gravity, every step required effort that would exhaust most humans in minutes. Her clothes pressed against her body. Her hair hung heavier around her face. Even breathing took more energy. Sarah walked to the center of the arena with steady steps. She showed no sign of strain, no difficulty with the crushing gravitational force. The crowd began to quiet, puzzled by her apparent ease. The opposite entrance opened. Zethkar emerged to thunderous applause from the hegemony section. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his black scales gleaming under the arena lights. His massive arms ended in claws that could cut through steel. His natural armor plating covered vital areas of his body. Under the high gravity of his homeworld, he moved with the easy grace of someone in his natural environment. He strode across the arena floor, each step creating small vibrations. When he reached the center, he towered over Sarah like a mountain, over a hill. The size difference was so extreme that several betting pools closed, refusing to take any more wagers. "Last chance to surrender," Zethkar said, his voice carrying easily in the thin air. "I will make your death quick if you yield. Now." Sarah looked up at him calmly. "Thank you for the offer. I decline." The arena referee, a floating crystal being, announced the rules. Single combat, no weapons, no outside assistance. Fight continues until surrender or incapacitation. Combatants, are you ready? "Ready," Zethkar rumbled. "Ready," Sarah said quietly. "Begin." Zethkar immediately lunged forward, planning to end the fight with a single devastating blow. His massive arm swung toward Sarah's head with enough force to shatter concrete. Sarah was not there. She had moved to the side with liquid grace, her body flowing like water around Zethkar's attack. His claws cut through empty air where her head had been a split second before. The crowd gasped. Under crushing gravity, such quick movement should have been impossible for a human. Zethkar spun, faster than his size suggested possible, and struck again. Once more, Sarah was not where his claws landed. She had stepped back, turned, and moved to his blind side in one smooth motion. "Stop running," Zethkar snarled, frustration beginning to show in his voice. "I'm not running," Sarah replied calmly. "I'm thinking." This time, instead of a single strike, Zethkar launched a flurry of attacks. His claws swept back and forth in deadly arcs, each one capable of tearing through armor plating. He was faster than most humans could even see, his natural reflexes enhanced by a lifetime of combat training. Sarah moved between the attacks like she was dancing. She bent backward under one swipe, stepped to the side of another, and dropped to one knee to avoid a third. Not once did she try to block or counterattack. She simply avoided everything Zethkar threw at her. The crowd fell silent, watching in amazement. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. Zethkar pressed his attack, growing more aggressive. His breathing became heavier. Sweat began to form on his scaled skin. Despite his natural advantages, he was working hard while Sarah seemed to move without effort. "How is she doing this?" muttered Ambassador Krell in the observation deck. "Impossible," said another alien delegate. "No human should be able to move like that under high gravity." Dr. Helix, watching from the medical observation area, studied his instruments. "Her heart rate is barely elevated," he reported to his colleagues. "She's functioning as if the gravity is normal for her." "That cannot be right," protested another doctor. "The instruments don't lie. Look at her muscle efficiency readings. She's using minimal energy for maximum movement. It's like she's been training for this exact situation her entire life." In the arena, Zethkar's attacks were becoming wilder, less controlled. He was beginning to tire, something that should have been impossible for a warrior of his conditioning. Sarah continued to move around him, always just out of reach, but now she was watching him differently. Her eyes tracked his movements, studying his patterns. She was learning. "You cannot run forever," Zethkar panted. "You're right," Sarah agreed. This time, when Zethkar attacked, Sarah did something different. Instead of avoiding his strike completely, she moved into it. She caught his massive arm with both hands, using his own momentum to redirect his force. Zethkar found himself stumbling forward off balance for the first time in the fight. The crowd erupted in surprised shouts. No one had expected the human to go on the offensive. Zethkar recovered quickly and spun around, but Sarah was already moving. She had studied his attack patterns and found what she was looking for: a weakness in his natural armor, the gap between his chest plating and his arm protection. Her strike was not particularly powerful by galactic standards, but it was precise. Her knuckles found the exact spot where his nerve cluster was closest to the surface. Zethkar's entire left arm went numb. "Impossible," he gasped. "Anatomy," Sarah corrected. "Every warrior species has weak points. You just have to know where to look." Zethkar attacked with his good arm, but now he was off balance, fighting with half his normal strength. Sarah continued to move around him, striking at pressure points, nerve clusters, and joint weaknesses that his own people had never mapped. Each strike was small, precise, and seemingly weak. But they added up. Zethkar's movements became slower, less coordinated. His natural advantages meant nothing against an opponent who knew exactly where to hit him. "This is not possible," he said, breathing heavily. "You are weak. You are small." "Yes," Sarah agreed, ducking under another wild swing, "but I am also educated." She moved behind him and struck at a specific point on his spine. Zethkar's legs buckled. He fell to one knee, then to both knees. His massive frame shook with the effort of trying to stand. The arena was completely silent now. 50,000 aliens watched in stunned disbelief as the greatest warrior in the galaxy knelt helpless before a human female who weighed less than his arm. Sarah walked around to face him. "Do you yield?" Zethkar's yellow eyes burned with rage and confusion. "How?" he whispered. "You assumed strength was everything," Sarah said gently. "My people learned long ago that intelligence beats strength, preparation beats natural advantages, and patience beats aggression." She extended her hand to him. "Do you yield?" Zethkar stared at her outstretched hand. This tiny being who had just defeated him was offering to help him up. It was a gesture of respect from one warrior to another. "I yield," he said quietly. The arena erupted in chaos. Some aliens cheered, others protested, and many simply sat in shocked silence. The impossible had happened. A human had defeated a hegemony warrior in single combat. Sarah helped Zethkar to his feet, supporting his weight until feeling returned to his limbs. "You fought with honor," she told him. "Your species should be proud." Zethkar looked down at her with new eyes. "What are you?" he asked. Sarah smiled. "I'm a diplomat, but before that, I was a soldier. And soldiers are taught to win, no matter what the odds." As they walked toward the arena exit together, the galaxy began to understand that humanity was going to be very different from what they had expected. The medical bay was chaos. Alien doctors rushed back and forth checking both fighters from the arena. Zethkar lay on a table designed for his massive size, while medical scanners examined the damage to his nervous system. The strikes Sarah had delivered were precise. They had disabled him without causing permanent harm. Remarkable, Dr. Helix muttered as he studied the scan results. Each strike targeted specific nerve clusters with surgical precision. She knew exactly where to hit him to cause temporary paralysis without lasting damage. Zethkar was conscious but quiet. His pride hurt more than his body. In 300 years of combat, he had never been defeated so completely. Worse, he had been defeated by someone he had dismissed as weak and insignificant. On the other side of the medical bay, Sarah sat on a simple chair while a junior medic checked her for injuries. She had none, not even bruises. The fight that had left a legendary warrior helpless had not marked her at all. "How do you feel?" the medic asked through his translator. "Tired," Sarah replied honestly. "But fine." "The gravity didn't affect you?" Sarah considered the question. "I've trained under worse conditions." The medic made notes on his device. He was young for his species, barely 50 years old, and had never seen combat like what had just occurred in the arena. "Ambassador Chen," Dr. Helix called from across the room. "May I speak with you?" Sarah walked over to where Zethkar was being treated. The massive warrior watched her approach with eyes that held a mixture of respect and confusion. "I have questions," Dr. Helix said. "Your fighting style was unlike anything in our databases. Those pressure point strikes, how did you know where to hit him?" "Research," Sarah replied simply. "Research? Before coming here, I studied the anatomy and physiology of every major species in the galaxy. I know where their nerve clusters are located, where their joints are weakest, how their muscle groups connect. It's basic preparation." Zethkar spoke for the first time since the fight. "You studied us like we were specimens in a laboratory." "I studied you like you were potential enemies," Sarah corrected. "Or potential allies. It pays to understand both." "Your people have files on all of us?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Wouldn't you?" The question hung in the air. Every species in the galaxy maintained intelligence on their neighbors. The idea that humans had done the same should not have been surprising. But somehow, it was. Dr. Helix cleared his throat. "There is another matter. The gravity training. Where did you learn to function under such conditions?" "Military training facility, classified location." "But the medical scans suggest years of conditioning. This was not recent training." Sarah nodded. "We've been preparing for galactic contact for longer than most people realize." "How long?" "Since we first detected radio signals from other star systems, we knew we weren't alone. We knew we would eventually meet other species. We wanted to be ready." Zethkar struggled to sit up on his medical table. "Ready for what?" "War." "Ready for anything," Sarah said. "Including diplomacy. Including trade. Including friendship. But yes, also including war if it became necessary." The implications of her words settled over the medical bay like a heavy blanket. Humanity had not stumbled onto the galactic stage unprepared. They had been planning and preparing for decades. "How many humans have your training?" Dr. Helix asked quietly. "Enough," Sarah replied. An hour later, the Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session. The arena fight had changed everything. What had begun as a simple membership application had become something much larger. Sarah stood once again in the center of the Great Hall, but the atmosphere was completely different. No one was laughing now. The aliens who had dismissed her as weak and primitive watched her with new eyes. "The challenge has been completed according to galactic law," announced the council speaker. "Ambassador Chen of Earth has defeated Ambassador Zethkar of the Hegemony in single combat. The terms of the challenge must be honored. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately." Polite applause echoed through the hall, but it was restrained. The delegates were still processing what they had witnessed. Zethkar entered the hall, moving slowly but under his own power. He walked to the center and stood beside Sarah. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the massive space. I have lived for 3 centuries, he began. I have fought in a dozen wars. I have defeated every challenger who faced me. Today I was beaten by someone I thought was beneath my notice. He turned to look at Sarah. I was wrong. Ambassador Chen fought with honor, skill, and mercy. She showed me respect even in victory. Her people deserve a place at this table. The Orcs hegemony delegation rose as one and applauded. Slowly other delegations joined them. The sound grew until the entire hall was filled with acknowledgement of humanity's achievement. Sarah waited for quiet before speaking. Honored delegates, today's fight was never about proving human superiority. It was about proving human worth. We don't claim to be stronger than you or smarter or better. We claim only to be equals. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of delegates from across the galaxy. Humans have much to learn from the galaxy. But we also have much to offer. We bring new perspectives, new solutions, and new possibilities. We bring the viewpoint of a young species that sees old problems with fresh eyes. We also bring something else, Sarah continued. We bring the knowledge that cooperation is stronger than conflict. On our world, the greatest achievements have come when different groups work together despite their differences. Ambassador Krell spoke from his platform. And if cooperation fails, what then? Sarah's expression grew serious. Then you will learn why humans have survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. But I hope it never comes to that. The council session continued for hours, working out the details of human membership. But the real business had been concluded in the arena. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through technology or political maneuvering, but through the oldest method of all, trial by combat. 2 weeks later, the first human embassy opened on Convergence Station. Sarah Chen served as Earth's first galactic ambassador, working to build relationships with species that had dismissed humanity just days before. Zethkar became an unexpected ally. The defeat had taught him something important about making assumptions, based on appearances. He and Sarah worked together on several diplomatic initiatives, their partnership becoming a symbol of how former enemies could become friends. In bars and meeting halls across the galaxy, aliens told stories about the day a small human woman brought down the greatest warrior in known space. The stories grew in the telling, but the core truth remained the same. Humans were dangerous when underestimated. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way, and it would not forget. Back on Earth, in hidden military facilities, other humans continued their training under crushing gravity and impossible conditions. They prepared for the day when diplomacy might fail and other methods would be required. They trained with the knowledge that their species had proven itself worthy of respect among the stars, and they would make sure that respect was never lost. In Tibintuli, the vastness of space, humanity had found its place, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals. The galaxy would never be quite the same.